still like it.
Right.
Well, if he's going to go live on us, maybe I should go ahead and start the meeting here. And I left the bell in the other room, so I'm going to just, that didn't sound very good. That's not a very good bell. Oh, well, we're going to start the meeting anyhow without a proper bell. Welcome everybody to Columbus Rotary. Glad you could join us today. A quick reminder that most of the time you should have your video or your audio on mute. So if you will think about that, we could keep from having so much interference today. It's interesting always hearing the dogs barking and the other things in the background, but it makes for better audio if we turn on our mute. But anyhow, thank everybody for joining us today. I'm glad we could have a nice crowd. Once again, I see 65 participants here. For the last 2 weeks, between the people who have joined us on Zoom and the people who have joined us on the live feed on Facebook, we've had over 100 people at our meetings participate. So we've got a good turnout again. I'd like to turn it over at this time to Rick Studer. Rick's going to give us the invocation and pledge of allegiance. So, Rick. You there, Rick?
Oh, Rick.
There we go.
Okay.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, everybody, let's stand up wherever you are. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, in the past, I've started several of my invocations with these words in recognition of the many faith traditions represented here, as well as recognizing those who may not have a religious affiliation. And then I proceeded with sharing thoughts. That's what I'm doing today. I've used the word reflection as a summary of my podium time. One definition of reflection is serious thought or considerations. That's what I'm aiming for. Over the weekend, I also looked up the definition of invocation again, and the definition said, the action of invoking something or someone for assistance or as an authority. I'm good with that too. So today's invocation / reflection is about truth. It fits both definitions. Doesn't require serious thought. Shouldn't we invoke truth for assistance as an authority, always and especially during these extraordinary times? Doesn't this remind us of the four-way test? I sure think it does. However, it's particularly challenging today because definitions and perceptions of truth are so elusive and tinged with all sorts of influences. So, well, I'm going to share 6 truths to ponder and celebrate, each one for a brief moment now and for more time later if you choose. I invite you to close your eyes and focus your minds. Eyes off the screen, eyes off the dog. And here we go. Truth is that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. That's from the dictionary. Next one. Rarely do we find people who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There is an almost universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains some people more than having to think. Martin Luther King Jr. Injustice anywhere is a threat to injustice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. We may have all come in different ships, but we're in the same boat now. Martin Luther King Jr. I am because we are. That's an Ubuntu African proverb. And last, here's the wonderful, truthful admonition that I think sums it all up. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi. Thanks, everybody, for pondering and acting in accordance with truth.
Thank you, Rick. All right. So just this week, every member should be receiving their dues invoice. This time it'll be different. We're not including any charges for meals at this time. So we're sending out, we don't know what's happening yet. We think at some point we hope to be back face to face, but we're also going to have options. We think we'll have an option of continuing Zoom because we know some of our members just won't be comfortable coming back and joining us at in a restaurant when it first opens up, I suspect. Anyhow, we're going to wait till we have a better idea in that, but it was also time, typically we send out the dues for the following half year, 6 weeks before the start of the season, if you will, which starts July 1st. So we're sending them out this week, but you'll see a bill. It'll be, but it will not have anything on there about meals. Now it's easiest for Scott if you pay that electronically, if you kind of follow the directions there. You know, that's the most secure. It'll come as most people will receive it as a email. If you just click on the link in the email, that's the quickest, easiest way to pay. It's also the quickest, easiest way for us to do the bookkeeping. So we encourage that. We know some people don't use electronic media. We'll send those people their hard copy bills and others if they need it. But really, we'd prefer you if you can pay it online then. I'm going to go quickly over the birthdays from this week. We had 3 members celebrating birthdays. So Doug Frazier, Smitty Smith, and Rhonda Miller. And we've had 4 members pass significant milestones in their tenure with Rotary. So I want to thank these members for the consistent participation and leadership through the years. I'm going to start with Wally Johanny at 35 years. Gary Ness at 37. Now, both those sound like they've been members of this club for a long time, but I'm going to move up to Bob Johns, 59 years. And finally, Nelson French at 60 years. So 4 members adding up there about 175 or so years between them. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you for being faithful and excellent participants in the our Rotary experience here. Kelly, I'm going to call on you now. Kelly is going to be is organizing once again the Bring Your Grad to Rotary, and he's got some information about the upcoming one this year. Kelly?
Thank you, President John. Wrote an article that was in last week's newsletter that Scott sent out via email, but it's to all Columbus Rotarians. We will hold our 3rd annual Bring Your Graduate to Rotary on Monday, June 1st at noon. However, it will be most likely held virtually this year via Zoom like today's meeting. As we had a fabulous keynote speaker last year when I invited my friend Kathleen Sullivan, we have an excellent speaker for the graduates and all members on June 1st. Congressman Steve Stivers will present brief prepared remarks to leave ample time for questions, first from our graduates and then from our members too, about our challenging pandemic times as we move to the other side. How timely. As I initiated this day in July 18 and followed up with our 2nd annual grad day last June of 19, it is up to you, our members, to invite your graduate. Starting with, we had middle schoolers. Carl Fanley had a middle school grandchild 2 years ago. Middle school, high school, vocational, technical, military, service, college, grad schools. You determine it. It's inclusive. We want you to make that invite. We've had children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. And we had one neighbor of Jim Bartha who was number 2 in his high school class at Delaware that Jim felt was like his own grad as he lived next door and takes a village to raise a child. We will be present. We will present each grad via a PowerPoint slide. In that email, if you did the read more, will be on that slide, Rotarian's name, their guest name, the grad, relationship between the two, the graduating program that they've just concluded, and what are their next future plans. Life goes on with graduations and social connections in spite of social distancing. Crises are a combination of risk and opportunities. It is even easier to join and bring your grad this year, wherever they are, near or far, as well as yourself. Your action steps. Contact your special grad and invite them. Email me with the requested information in that format. There's no cost but your engagement. Thank you in advance for marking your calendar to join us on June 1st. Thank you, President John.
Thank you, Callaway. All right, we're going to follow that up with a little levity. So today our weekly levity is coming from Dana Vogelmeyer and Catherine Baird.
We're on mute. We're talking.
Well, hello, everyone. We do have a very special guest that's with us today, and she's thinking about joining our club. So to get the most out of this, you may want to put your view on speaker view. So Annie, if you're here, if you would come on camera, that would be great.
Hello, Columbus Rotary. I'm here. Can you see me?
Great. Hi, Annie. Thanks for joining us. We know that you have some special things that you're going to share with us today. But before you do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, thank you, Miss Dana. My name is Annie, and I'm 3 years old, and I'm from England. But I've been lucky enough to be on Van Buren Acres now for 2 wonderful years. I have a cousin here on the farm. Her name is Mocha. She is 1 year old, and she's actually in the Rotary Club. Lucky young lady. And some of the other animals that I live with here on the farm, we have Chester. He's an emu. He's a funny fellow. I have a couple goat friends, Francesca and Sparkles and Earless. Well, she really has ears. You just can't see him. Funny little girl. Couple sheep, Bama and Brutus, and a lot of chickens. And you might hear a rooster in the background. But I do love when people Zoom with me and they tour the facility here at Van Buren Acres. I also, oh, silly George, can you hear him in the background? I'm so sorry. But personally, since I'm looking to join Rotary, a little bit more about myself. I like to eat hay, sweet feed, animal crackers are really my favorite, jelly beans, and Fruit Loops. But my owner, Mark, sometimes he forgets the milk. Silly him. Did you also know, Dana, that donkeys were first born in the United States and they were owned by George Washington? And a little emu fact, not only are they on commercials like you see, but emus are the second largest bird on the planet. And they have 2, believe it or not, 2 sets of eyelids, one for blinking and one for keeping the dust out. And some of my favorite things to do here on the farm with my farm parents, Mark and Catherine, actually they're Rotarians too, so are my grandparents on the farm. But my favorite things to do would be hang out, eat my Fruit Loops with my cousin, and meet people. And sometimes we play soccer here at the farm.
That's fabulous, Annie. Thank you so much. And we love that your parents and grandparents are fellow Rotarians. So thank you, Mark, for doing that. We did offer to pay for Annie's appearance today. And she said, instead, I wish that you would take that money and donate it to the MidOhio Food Bank. So we'll be adding an additional check in honor of Annie the donkey. Before we go, she's got some important words, and I want to pass it off to my friend Amanda, Annie, and she's gonna talk to you for a minute, okay?
Oh, great. Thank you, Miss Dana.
Annie, thank you so much for joining us. I have a couple jokes for you. Is that okay?
Yes, that'd be wonderful. I love jokes.
Oh, great. Annie, what do you call a donkey with 3 legs?
I don't know. What?
A wonky. Okay, I have one more joke, Annie. What do you call a donkey with 1 leg and a bad eye?
Oh, I don't know. What is it, Amanda?
A winky wonky donkey.
Those are funny.
Annie, I think that you are a very beautiful donkey, and I really appreciate your visit. And I just want to ask, do you have any advice or any final words that you would like to give us?
Actually, yes, I do. I want everyone to stay safe. So please, don't be an ass. Wear a mask.
Thank you, Annie. I could not have said that better myself. And you actually bring up a very good point. And a perfect segue to my next piece, which is thank you, Annie, so much. And thank you to your farm parents for letting you join us today. Annie mentioned, don't be an ass, wear a mask. And we're going to be selling Rotary branded face masks. One of our vocational partners, a school that we have, or one of our vocational schools in Guatemala, is sewing and making masks, little yellow masks with the Rotary logo on it. They're $10 a piece, and they're going to be sold in lots of 10. We're going to be selling them. Scott's going to be collecting the orders, and then Callaway and I will be facilitating the distribution of that. If I remember correctly, the Upper Arlington Club is going to be collecting all of the, or receiving all of the masks for our district. And then Callaway and I will get the masks for our club, and then we'll do kind of a drive-by pickup sort of thing in a park in a central location, or if you want us to bring them and drop them off right to your house, we will do that. So let us know. There was a picture of one of the masks in the most recent newsletter that went out. I'm sure that Scott will include it again in this week's newsletter. They're just like the regular type of mask that you've been seeing. They're yellow, the little logo on the side. And again, this supports one of the vocational schools that our district has been supporting in Guatemala. Lots of $10 a piece. If you guys want to go halvesies on one, like I want 5. So there are some other people that, you know, maybe don't want 10. So let us know what you want. We'll match you up with other people that want 5 themselves, and we'll get this all together. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that. And I hope everybody will join us in getting some Rotary sponsored, Rotary branded masks for the group. We're going to move on to our program here. And actually, before I introduce our speaker, I'm going to introduce Gary Vaughn. Gary Vaughn is District Governor for District 6690 of Rotary. That's our district here, of course, which is the Columbus area in Southeast Ohio. So Gary, I think give you the floor here for a few minutes to make a presentation.
I can do that. Thank you. Scott, would you put up the PowerPoint, please? All right, good. I will make a short presentation, but it will be powerful and with lots of information. There we go. You might notice that the podium and the sign is from Columbus. Wonder how I got that. But I will start with this, and I guess Matt, is he on with us now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, welcome, Matt, and appreciate you being here. Since we can't meet in the boathouse, I thought I'd take a few minutes and take you to the boathouse via this presentation. And if you look at the screen, that picture was actually taken in the boathouse when we were still meeting in September of 19. But if you've never been to a meeting there, it's a fun place to have a meeting. You walk in and the registration is to your left. The food is at the left again to the back of the room. And the room is filled with tables and people talking and laughing and carrying on. And then somebody named President John rings the bell and everybody gets real quiet. And it turns into a real Rotary meeting. And it's amazing how Rotarians absolutely respond to the bell. We all jump up or do whatever we have to do when the bell rings. But I do want to give you a benefit of an explanation of these graphics that I've put on here, Matt, just so you will know why I chose them. The picture on the left is actually a banner that I have. It is a map of Ohio. The gold to the bottom right is District 6690. There are 5 Rotary districts in the state of Ohio. Ours is one of them. Our district covers central and southeast Ohio. made up of 59 clubs, 3,500 members, and a bit of interest, about half of the clubs are in Appalachia. So we have a diverse crowd and groups of people and styles of Rotary. The text box in the middle is a quote from our founder, Paul P. Harris. I'll give you a little more detail about that here later. Interestingly, though, Paul Harris actually signed the charter for the Rotary Club of Columbus. Anybody know what year that was chartered? John, President John, do you know?
I got on mute for, yeah, 1912.
1912, you're right. So they've already celebrated their 100th year, but I think they're the only club I know in this district that was, the charter was signed by Paul Harris. The red box at the bottom is our logo on End Polio Now. It's our signature project, and that is to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. There are only 2 countries in the world that still have live polio, Pakistan and Afghanistan. And we are this close to eradicating that disease from the face of the earth. The picture of me standing in the podium is from a meeting in September, as I said. If we were in the meeting in person, I would be standing on the stage and I would be standing behind the podium that you see in front of you. The graphic you see to the lower left of your screen is this year's Rotary theme, Rotary Connects the World. The phrase celebrate your Rotary achievements in the middle is a theme that I have adopted for my year and use that almost every time I present. The logo bottom right is a theme for the next Rotary year, Rotary Opens Opportunities. Give you a quick history of how we got here. On March the 12th, Governor DeWine limits in-person meetings to no more than 50 people, we'll put it that way. I think that was the beginning of our world changing in Rotary for a while. March the 22nd, Governor DeWine issued an order that Ohioans to stay at home to avoid non-essential business. This sparked the district leadership to search for a project that would involve the entire district and benefit the most people. The food bank project was chosen. A team was assembled to lead this project. The leaders of the team are Sandy Knessel, she is Rotary Club of Columbus, and she's on this call. Price Finley, Rotary Club of Upper Arlington, he is on this call. And Larry Jenkins, Rotary Club of Westerville Sunrise. Don't know whether he's on the call or not. I did not see him. Want to say thank you, team. You've done a great job pulling this together. Our goal was to raise $50,000 from the 59 clubs, 3,500 members, and then raise $50,000 for Rotary District 6690. Our first letter went out to our presidents of the club announcing the food bank project on April the 6th. Last Friday, I went to the printer and printed the presentation check for today. So literally 30 days from the time of the first announcement, we have reached our goal. We have raised a total of $100,000 from our clubs, our members. Early on, we made a decision that the money raised from the clubs and members served by a particular food bank would have the money that they raise given to that food bank. So we're actually making a contribution to 2 different groups here. 95% of the money raised is from the communities clubs serviced by the MidOhio Food Collective. And we will go in a little more detail there, but 5% of the money is from the communities clubs serviced by the Southeast Ohio Food Bank and Regional Kitchen. I'm going to quote you, Matt, and we were working with you as we began to look at what project and what we do. Rotary's donation of $100,000 will provide up to $900,000 in groceries, or approximately 320,000 meals, because of the food bank's ability to leverage its food source purchasing. Now, let me give you a quote that you see on the left side of the screen in the middle of the text box. This is from Paul Harris. The greatest of all achievements are the result of the combined effort of the heart and head and hand working in perfect coordination. Matt, when I was going through the interview process to become district governor, I was asked this question. In your year as governor, how will you measure your success? My answer was and is, if at the end of the Rotary year, I can honestly say that I've made life better for one person, I would consider it a successful year. Through the partnership of Rotary District 6690, its 59 clubs, its 3,500 members, and the partnerships of MidOhio Food Collective, we can say that we have made life better for 320,000 people. Next slide, please, Scott. You can see there that we have 95,000 donations are still coming in, and we're hoping to be able to make it a total of 100,000 to the MidOhio Food Collective. Matt, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your organization. And we are so glad to be able to partner with you on this great event. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for all you did on behalf of the district and encouraging us all to help the food banks in central and southeastern Ohio. We are very proud to be your partner in this effort, so thank you very much. I'm now going to introduce Matt Habash. Matt is the executive director of it's been the MidOhio Food Bank since 1984, recently updated its name to the MidOhio Food Collective. He was also well known when he was with Columbus City Council from 1993 to 2006. You know, in his bio here, he talks about many things in his efforts with Columbus City Council. He led the 21st Century Growth Initiative. He spearheaded efforts as council president with the 315 Research Corridor, the city's Indoor Clean Air Act, and the city's Bike Path Plan. I got to know him through the city's Bike Path Plan. In fact, when I returned to Columbus back in 1998 to serve as director of Metro Parks, my new board gave me a short list of people that I had to go see first in the community, and Matt was one of those people. So he was a member of city council at that point. Matt and I met in those early days in 1998, and we talked about creating a bike path plan for Central Ohio. It hatched out, and we worked together between the city of Columbus, Metro Parks, and actually almost every other government in Franklin County worked together over the next several years. We went from about 7 miles of regional bike path in 98 to over 100 miles. So I always remember Matt fondly for bringing the leadership of Columbus City Council to the table on that and helping us get that plan up and running. So Matt, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you as you get a chance to tell us about the MidOhio Food Cooperative, Food Collective.
Thanks, John. And John's been very modest when it comes to that trail system. It wouldn't have happened without him. The partnership that was developed with Metro Parks was unprecedented, I think, in really opening up the park systems to trails and really helping to figure that out. So I've always had great respect for John. So thank you. I'm going to open it up a little bit differently. I know Scott has a video because one of the issues that I want to talk a little bit about the MidOhio Food Collective, why we did that, what our work is about from that perspective, and why that name, given, you know, I've been around for 36 of the 40-year history of this organization, and changing and the main name from Food Bank to Collective was a big issue for us. And then I'm going to go into the COVID response and what we're doing, and then open it up for a lot of questions, I hope. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott, and I think we have about a 2-minute video that kind of explains it better than I could. Scott?
There's always a little delay as Scott gets things up and running. That's fine. We'll give him a second to get it going.
This while he's getting that ready, this was a wonderful project. All the work you're going to do is done in-house by our own team.
All right, the video is playing on my screen, but apparently not on anyone else's screen. So let me try one other way, Matt.
Okay.
We'll go straight from your PowerPoint. So let me try to see if I can get it through your PowerPoint. Here's the PowerPoint.
I think this is where we talk about having some technical difficulties.
Feeding our hungry neighbors has been our mission.
Okay, it's not letting me play it. It's playing on my screen, but apparently it's not playing anywhere else.
We can hear it.
But you can't see it.
Right.
All right, hold on. Sorry about this, folks.
Since 1980, feeding our hungry neighbors has been our mission.
I can't.
All right, Matt, maybe you should just take over. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I can do it from, won't be as good as that video, that much I can tell you. Hopefully you can send that out to you. It's about a
Sorry,
2-minute.
Matt. I don't know why it's not showing up on my screen.
Okay, not a problem. Just to give you a sense, we began a journey about 8 or 9 months ago, really looking at the fact that we were known very well for the MidOhio Food Bank and the work that we were doing, but we had stepped into a lot of other work, particularly around the idea of a MidOhio farm, a MidOhio pharmacy program, a MidOhio kitchen, and a MidOhio market. So those 5 areas became what we called our assets. And it was a recognition that we're more than a food bank. We're more than moving the food that we do. And I'll talk a lot about that. We had a farm on the south side of Columbus for a number of years, lost it when a charter school bought the Columbus Public School, and we got booted off about a year later. We are opening a brand new state-of-the-art farm up on the hilltop, and we're excited about the opportunity there. And we really stepped into a partnership with USDA where we gave out about $3 million in grants to other urban farming and community gardening projects to help strengthen them. The whole purpose of our farm is to really look at the issue of urban farming and teaching young people where food comes from and really connecting people to now high-tech ways of growing food, which is going to be our new partnership. And right now we're even helping out Waterman Farms at Ohio State with that project because we've taken all the seedlings they had, and then when they got shut down, we took them all over to our farm and our high tunnels and are growing them for them there. The MidOhio Kitchen really was a recognition. And for those of you who know, we run a restaurant. It's in the Reeve Avenue Center. It's a cafe. We also cook for the Boys and Girls Club and the daycare out of there, cook a community meal as well, and then started into the after-school meal program, the summer feeding programs, and we've pulled all of that together under now a banner of MidOhio Kitchen, where we intend to greatly expand that with the idea of ultimately cooking and preparing some of the food that we get and having it in a ready, easy state. As they like to tell me, convenience trumps everything in the food industry. Hence, we want to make sure that healthy, fresh choices are, in fact, part of that. The MidOhio Pharmacy is a partnership we started a number of years ago, but we really began in 2011 when we were asked, one of 3 food banks in the country, to do diabetes research with Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation, Feeding America. We partnered with Ohio State to do that research. And it really was looking at the issue, if you're food insecure, can you manage your diabetes? Well, it turns out the answer is no. And we really went about a process. Could we create ways where in fact we could provide enough fresh, healthy food that we can in fact see improvements in A1Cs for diabetes? We were the only one of the 3 food banks to do that. We had a unique partnership with Primary One Health Center, with the Central Ohio Diabetes Association, and then obviously with us. That model worked better than some of the other 2 models tried by the other 2 food banks. And it really, that coupled with the fact that we were also asked at that time to lead the charge to find the next 1 billion pounds of fresh produce. The estimates are in any given year is 10 to 14 billion pounds of produce are left in the fields and not harvested. This year will be a record year given all the challenges that half the food industry has been shut down for a while. So we stepped into that space with an idea that if we could have doctors write food prescriptions for produce, match the data back up with the visit data of how many times people came, the more frequently people came to get the fresh food, the better we could see their A1Cs get in diabetes. So we now pitch ourselves as a low-cost, high-value healthcare strategy. It really is a way of looking at the fact that surplus food in this country, which is the foundation of food banking, really is in the fresh categories. More than 60% of what we normally give out is fresh food. We're the 5th largest produce distributing food bank in the United States, and last year gave out over 30 million pounds of produce that would have been left in the fields and not harvested. So we're capturing that food, getting it to people that are hungry across a 20-county footprint, and now working with healthcare partners to measure the more frequently we get you to come, the more we can in fact see improvements in health. And a way to enhance that was the MidOhio market strategy. This for us was really responding in a couple ways to a deep dive set of interviews we did with about 300 people. And these are about an hour-long interview process. And during one of those, a customer, as we now call our clients, said to us, I can't afford to shop at a food pantry. And we said, what's that mean? And she says, I can't afford to take a day off of work. I work, more than half the people we help work. And I can't, the pantry's open when I'm at work. That's the only days it's open in my neighborhood. Therefore, if I take a day off, I lose $80 because I get paid by the hour. And we realized that, our system of, 600 partner agencies, in this case, 300 pantries, and about 120 of those are in Franklin County, wasn't really the answer if the pantry is open for 2 hours this week and only twice a month, those kind of things. And we really needed to have more consistent hours. We also really wanted to address the issue of stigma. So we really came at this with the idea that a MidOhio market strategy, rather than calling it a food pantry, rather than having it in a church basement, with all the stigma, it's really difficult. What we know from our data tracking system is that basically people come 5 times or less a year. We touch 500,000 people a year. 36% of those folks come once a year. 70% come 5 times or less. Most of them could come at least twice a month if they wanted to. And so the reality is people only came when life really forced them to have the courage to come across and step across that threshold into a pantry. We want to make it more inviting now. If we're going to use ourselves as a healthcare strategy, we have fresh food. People can't afford to buy that food in the grocery store. It's the most expensive in a lot of ways and perishable. They're not going to take the risk. So we wanted to destigmatize. Hence, we've got the MidOhio market. We've opened 2, one on Columbus State's campus and another one in Reynoldsburg. To give you an idea of the success, it's the only thing open on Columbus State's campus pretty much right now. And they used it to get Chromebooks to their students when they went all online. That distribution out of the market to have the people come there, then they could also introduce them to the market that hadn't had a chance to know it was there yet. And it's been very successful. It's now in the top 5 of our biggest distributions. The one at MidOhio Market at Hart in Reynoldsburg, prior to the switch from the pantry model to the market model, they had about 450 families a month. They are now doing 1,100 families a week. So it was almost a 10-fold increase in our ability to really see how we could help people. We want you coming back, take what you can use that week. And because it's perishable food, it's fresh food. We don't want to give you a lot of it. None of us buy our milk once a month. Wouldn't taste very good, and so for us, it really was recognizing the surplus food that we now have is fresh, and how do we get it to you on a regular basis? And in fact, if we can measure with our healthcare partners the frequency of visit, we're actually seeing improvements to health. So for us, our new strategy long-term is, can we measure the health impact that we're having on folks? And so we created all of this food distribution came around the idea of a food as health strategy. And we've really lived it. I had no idea when we started that we'd be talking about COVID-19 and our response to that in a whole different way in terms of what food as health really looks like. But it's a reality. And for us, all of those assets coming together, all 5 of those really became for us a recognition that while we have a anchor signature program and that asset in the MidOhio Food Bank, we in fact have a lot more, and we wanted the opportunity to really package all of that. The logo looks like it was inspired. It's a head of lettuce. Is basically when you look down at a nice good head of lettuce. They actually went all over the place trying to come up with ideas. Ended up volunteering in our pantry, our marketing team, and sat there and watched all these heads of lettuce go in everybody's basket. That was shopping that day, and it really became, because it also is a way to break it up, and it holds all 5 of the assets in the leaves. So it's worked out really well for us. It was a big risk. As I said, the entire work, all of that, if you get a chance to see it all, was all done in-house by our own marketing team. So we're quite excited about it. Shifting to a little bit about the COVID situation. So for us, when the governor started talking about closing the Arnold, we came together as a community and really wanted to start to take a look at What does this mean for us? Food banks are very good at disaster relief. We've done a lot of it. Most of the time it's natural disasters. Think Harvey, Katrina. I've been at New York in 9/11. I was in Oklahoma City with the day the bombing actually happened, stayed there to help them. So our team has done that, and food banks are really good, and we have a really good disaster plan. Never thought we'd have to use it all across the country at the same time. And that's kind of what's unfolded in this process, for us. But we really began to say, okay, if that's the case, we're going to have, and you heard about the stimulus bills. There's food in the stimulus bills. USDA is one of our big partners. They buy a lot of surplus food from the farm industry, and we end up with those kinds of products and the manufacture of products that aren't being sold. We get a lot of that product, have for the entire time I've been around. But I recognized that it was going to take a long time to get that food. So before we had raised a dime, I empowered our food sourcing team to start buying tractor trailer loads of food. To give you a perspective, since March 13th, we have ordered 100 tractor trailer loads of food and some other products. July, which is the beginning of our fiscal year, through March 13th, we had only ordered 50 truckloads of food to go along with all the other semis of donated product we get from the food industry. Also realized a lot of our food industry donations were going to shrink for a while. As the grocery stores emptied out, all of our grocery store donations from retailers stopped. So we knew that there was going to be disruption. So we started ahead of every other food bank. I was on a call 2 weeks ago, and some food banks hadn't ordered their first semi yet. So we were trying to cover the gap between the time period of March, early all of April, up until the federal foods start to show up as they acquire the surplus food from the industry, and they have a lot of money to buy up some food to hopefully save the farmers, acquire that food, and we will have that late summer, early fall. So we were trying to buy time. A lot of our food donors turned back on. This was a week by week change in numbers and people and donations. People say donations stop, well, some turned back on. Once the leveling happened at the grocery stores, we saw a good improvement. So we really looked at this, and we decided we're going to make health our top priority. So you can flip the slide, Scott. It really is around the idea that we have a big pantry here. We have the largest pantry in our system right here in the food bank itself. So it's called the Kroger Community Food Pantry. And it really was designed around the idea of shifting how we give out food. We had spent the last 8 or 9, 10 years really going to a choice pantry model. A choice meaning the customer gets to choose the food. You're not handing everybody a box of food and they get things they don't like, they're allergic to, they can't use, and the food's going to get wasted. So we really have been, and we wanted a much more dignified approach. We've worked on all those strategies to make this a very customer-centric approach, and we had to abandon all that. We had to go to literally shifting to a no-touch model, and that for us was going back to what we used to do, pre-boxing the foods, and even the produce. We've gone from 0 to 1,200 free produce markets across our 20-county footprint in a year. And we had to stop doing those the way we did, where you got to show up and pick and choose the product you want. If you didn't like a certain fruit or vegetable, you didn't take it, and now we've got a pre-bag. So there's a little bit of that's lost in the no-touch model of that ability to shop. But we really wanted to encourage that. And that's the advantage we ended up with. We got that word out really early to our agency partners, said we need to shift to this model. And to contrast the difference in our partner system across our 20-county footprint is 95% of them stayed open. And you got to remember that 70% of the volunteers that we have in those operations are senior citizens who were being told to stay home. So, and a lot of them still came out, some corporate folks who, once they were, into no work zones and working from home and all those things, getting furloughed, we had some volunteers in places show up to keep our system open. Contrast that with Las Vegas, 83% of their agencies closed. So it was the exact opposite here versus there, which gave us the ability to move a lot of food to people in a normal channel. So the big lines you see from my friends in San Antonio and Pittsburgh and a few other places where there's 10,000 cars get served in a day, we didn't have to do any of that. We did very little of that, frankly. We've got a couple of distributions that have gotten a little big that were farmers markets on the west side intentionally. But by and large, our agencies picked it up. So we've seen about 120% growth in the number of people coming to the pantry right here at the food bank. And that was going on in a couple of our other key operations. What has helped us is the fact that the governor also, we asked for help from the Ohio National Guard. And if I could turn my camera to the left, you would see about 10 of them upstairs in the office area up here, literally putting masks in envelopes that we're shipping off to every one of our agency partners. We ordered 36,000 masks the first time. We got another 100,000 masks coming, and we're going to continue to pass those out to agencies, to pass out to customers if they need them, as well as have them available for folks right at the pantries. And they're in the process of putting those all in envelopes right now and shipping them off. But we really have had 100, and they have been a godsend. To have 113 soldiers and airmen here, literally boxing up food. They've boxed up 25,000 boxes of food as emergency boxes that we'll ship to our rural partners who don't have enough volunteers and the ability to handle cases of food getting to them and having to do the normal process. We have boxes already made. We rented another warehouse to put them in. And to literally have those available for them. They've boxed up and delivered boxes. We have a senior box program. It's federal food packed by volunteers. Some of our senior sites in Eastern Ohio closed. So these airmen and guard and all these folks called all those seniors on the phone, told them when the day of the distribution. And we did the distribution faster than we ever have. And we're able to continue to make sure those seniors get food. We even deployed some of them. I grew up in Steubenville in Eastern Ohio, and we have a wonderful agency over there called Urban Mission. It's big, and they needed some help. Some of these guards people were living over there, driving over here every day. We redeployed them over in Eastern Ohio to help both Jefferson and Belmont County food distributions. They've run our pantry outside. In fact, the only two people we've lost to the COVID virus was in fact people that ran our pantry because they got exposed to a volunteer or a temporary worker. We isolated them and they said, we got this. We know how to run it. And it's a car mode here and you're in and out of here. They pride themselves on serving somebody every 30 seconds. So we've seen a lot of shifting. We've partnered with the schools to take produce to the school distribution sites. We now cook 10,000 meals a day as they decentralized the homeless shelters. They didn't have any place to cook. Well, I had folks that were no longer cooking for school meal sites because of the shutdown. So we redeployed those kitchen chefs and we're cooking meals to ship out with the guards' help, distributing meals out where the homeless shelters ended up on the north side in downtown to make sure they had 3 meals a day there for that as well. So give it all in a nutshell. April, we distributed 7.8 million pounds of food. That's a 38% over April 2019. The good news is we had the food and we had a system to get it all out to people. We're continuing to see those kinds of numbers. I think March and April, we were up 3.6 million pounds of food over the 2 months previous, and we started in the middle of the month. So we really have seen this increase. My sense is we're going to continue with this healthcare crisis for a while, and then we're going to move into economic recovery. We got a 14.7 unemployment rate. We fully expect we've done this before in a recession, back in the 07, 08, 09. We anticipate we're going to be doing that. We anticipate running at about a 30% higher volume for a long time. I'm thinking 1 to 2 years, depending on how this all plays out over the course of time. So with all of that, I'm just going to close with a really simple story. While the numbers are big, while all this matters, I greatly appreciate your donation to us. We could not do this without people. We ordered $2.4 million worth of food before we had raised any money to cover the cost of it. So I was either going to drain all of my operating to make sure we had it, and people stepped up to help us cover those costs. So with that help, the volunteers help, the guards help, we've really been able to do things. But we got a letter the other day from somebody who pulled up in their car outside, and unbeknownst to us, she was just picking up food. And she loaded in the letter after the fact that it was the anniversary of her spouse's death. And she wanted to have flowers, but could not afford them to take them to the gravesite. Unbeknownst to her, we had gotten a flower donation that day. We had no idea if any of this was going on. And the guard, because you couldn't see what was going in your food, we get you to pop your trunk. We put the groceries and the product in the back of the car. They also laid a dozen roses in her car. So she gets home and opens up to see what food she has and realizes she also has the flowers to take to the gravesite. So while we talk a lot about what the big numbers are and how big this is and what we're dealing with, it also, as you said, Gary, when you said what would matter to you, for us, this matters, we're helping one person at a time. And that's really what this is about. It's making those kind of connections. With that, I'll stop and see what kind of questions you have.
Thank you, Matt. And I think we're running a little long, but I think we have time for a question or two, and then I'll wrap it up. So is there anybody who wants to, I'm going to put it on my gallery view and see if anybody wants to raise their hand to ask a question about the food bank. I see Ken
I have a
Ackerman.
question.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask Matt Habash if you're familiar with the micro farming project on the Mansfield campus at Ohio State run by Professor Kip Curtis, sort of an innovative way of creating fresh food in land that's not usually used for that. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with his project, but I can tell you all of the work we've done on our farming has been informed by the folks up in Worcester and Mansfield area. Those places that Ohio State and places are doing have been real partners for us. This is all about micro gardening at the end of the day. This is about teaching people how to do things in their backyard, how to grow vertically. So I don't know whether my team is or not. I am not familiar with their project, but
I've done some writing on it, which I'll send to you.
okay, please do, because we're looking for model ways. And one of the things we're doing with the farm on the hilltop is demonstrating other ways to do things. So we got everything from, we're into artificial intelligence around here in a big way and understanding all of the ways that we can improve things and using them as demos and then teaching people how to do things in their own spaces. The $3 million basically that we've given out was all around helping a lot of small farms do better. So if we get better ideas, I'd love to incorporate them. Thanks, Ken.
Another question. Raise the hand, anybody?
Fred Hadley.
Fred, go ahead.
Hi, Matt. Hey, thanks for the update. That's I'm stunned at how you've been able to pivot and do as much as you can with the volume increases you've seen. Can you give a little bit of color about some of the relationship between MidOhio and Feeding America? I'm assuming you are a member of that organization.
Yes, Feeding America, for anybody who's been around a long time, used to be called Second Harvest. So there are some food banks still by that name across the country you may run into. Feeding America is the national network of food banks. There are some 200 of us across the country. Feeding America really helped organize food banking when it was Second Harvest in the early days of organizing it, turning it into a national movement. Literally, food banking started from one person named John Van Hengel in Phoenix, Arizona, collecting more food and he could use at a soup kitchen, getting a warehouse and starting redistributing it to other charities in Phoenix. From that one guy's idea to now, it's the largest private sector feeding program when you combine the work of all 200 food banks. We have a contractual relationship with them. So my board here is my decision-making board. And then we have an agreement to participate in certain ways to maintain certain food safety standards. We all have territories, if you will. That's why I talk about a 20-county service area. All of that is kind of facilitated by the Feeding America. They also work very strongly in Washington on advocacy issues. The SNAP program in particular is a big one that that's paid attention to. And they rally national donors, both food companies and individuals who are donating money. People may have heard about Jeff Bezos donating $100 million to food banks. They facilitated that entire arrangement conversation. All the money got passed through Feeding America. They didn't keep any of it. It went out to food banks all across the country. We used all that money, basically, or most of that money, to pass on to our 600 agency partners. We didn't keep any of it. We literally were passing it on to them. So as they were seeing increase in expenses, they would have some additional cash, particularly if they were a lot of faith-based organizations who may not be raising as much money in the church till as they used to, when everybody was showing up. So we wanted to make sure they had additional resources they could make their own decisions. So that's kind of they're an organizing body with us. It's a national network.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt. It's about 8 after, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the meeting. I'm sure there's more questions, but you'll have to figure out a different way of getting them. I want to thank all the folks from Rotary District 6690 who joined us today, and thank you for your presentation, Gary. Our speaker next week is Rhett Reichart from Reichart Automotive, so we'll hear about the automotive industry here in Columbus next week. And again, thank you all for joining us. And with that, I'm going to ring our bell here.
Oh, found it.
Thank you all
for joining us.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.